Okay, so welcome to video number 13 for our GSA search engine ranker training. So in this video, I wanted to show you, first of all, GSA running, give you some ideas on things that you want to be aware of and some additional information you're going to need to know. And then also the CAPTCHA breaker and how that works. It's pretty simple. So before we talked about the CAPTCHA breaker, remember here in the options, and they recommended that you add a second service deCAPTCHA. And remember we talked about that if you add it here, it's going to send all of your failed CAPTCHAs from GSA CAPTCHA breaker to that CAPTCHA service, and you're going to pay for all of them. And that there was some other options. So now's a good time to go over that. Here in GSA CAPTCHA breaker, you have options of emulating various services. I usually just emulate all of them. I haven't noticed a lot of difference between just picking a few of them or emulating all of them. Something you might want to experiment with if you have time. But I'm setting it up like this, and then I'm setting it up to go to death by CAPTCHA to my account only on marked types, right? So if you have it set up over here, it's going to send everything that failed over. But here we can specify CAPTCHA types, right, that go if you check this box here. And what that means is that we can go over here and just look at specific. This is all the CAPTCHA types. Now over here, we have all the actual properties. In CAPTCHA breaker, we have all the CAPTCHA, the actual properties by what's going on with their CAPTCHAs, right? So I'm going to other, and for instance, an important thing for CAPTCHAs is reCAPTCHAs, because a lot of really powerful properties use reCAPTCHA, and you'll notice that this little green and yellow arrow, I'm right-clicking on CAPTCHA, and I'm telling it to toggle use of CAPTCHA services, and so that's telling it whenever it runs into reCAPTCHA. It was already set there, so it didn't like what I did. But anyway, so it's on these types of CAPTCHAs, you notice it's solved 0 out of 130, right? It's only solved 40% or 12%. If they're important types of properties for you, this one solved 11%, 36%. So I'm sending those over to, death by CAPTCHA directly, because the CAPTCHA breaker doesn't work with them efficiently. But all the rest of these, I'm just letting them run, and if they fail, they fail, right? So I can very selectively send over whatever properties I want. If we're using over here a type of property, like for instance articles, you go over here and you can see exactly what's going on in articles, how they're operating, what percent they're failing, and make your decision as to what you want to do, each and individually. So it's pretty powerful, and it can help you just get the most powerful links, and then the rest, hey, we don't need to necessarily pay an ongoing fee to get those. If they're not important to you enough, then don't do that. And hey, I know guys that are just using CAPTCHA breaker and that's it too, right? So if it fails CAPTCHA breaker, it fails. So if you're on a budget, that's just another option that works. Even with the proxies, I know guys that are running it just on the public proxies only and with CAPTCHA breaker only, and they're not paying for proxies or CAPTCHA services beyond this software right here, which is a one-time fee. So if you're on a budget, those things are definitely possible, and you can still get lots of links. Okay, so those are the settings for CAPTCHA breaker. You can come in here and just click this button here and just make sure it's working. Sometimes you'll get a message like this. Click restart, and then it'll work the next time. And you notice it's starting up back down here, right? So when you start up GSA, you want to make sure that you're getting these CAPTCHAs scrolling over here. Otherwise, come up here and reset that button that I just showed you. You can also go over here to options and you highlight GSA, and there's a test button here, right? So it'll say communication was successful. So those are the two places you want to go if you're experimenting a problem with a GSA capture breaker not working. Some servers also, if you're going to run these pieces of software, they don't have enough permission settings. If you have a VPS, in some cases, I've seen it and I've seen it not be the case. You can just come over here to GSA Search Engine Ranker and run it as administrator, and same with GSA Capture Breaker. If that's the case, if you can't get this working, and that's probably the problem, and then it'll start working because it just needs some extra permissions that for some reason on your VPS or your computer it's not set to have. So that should solve those problems. Other than that, you notice that it's running successfully. They're communicating with each other. We've got campaigns running here. These are the links that have been verified just since we started up the computer a minute ago already. You notice we're getting a steady flow of links being added. We're adding somewhere around 7.5 links a minute right now. And you'll notice that we've got these campaigns running, and they have similar settings to what I already showed you, and I've expanded the campaign, notice, over time, just like I said, and expanded some properties. And this particular is a launch jack that we've been doing. So here it is. We started out a day and a half before the launch, and everyone else had a month, and we just pretty much blasted by everybody. Here's the YouTube #1 position, for that launch with our bonus. We focused on bonus on this launch. So okay, so something else you'll need to know too is that you see how these campaigns are linked together. This is actually what's called a Tier 2 campaign. So I'll explain how to do that, but it's a campaign that's actually linking to the links of the one it's attached to. So this is generating links, and this is backlinking those links. So let's say we wanted to do that on this campaign right here. I would just go, modify project. I would duplicate the project, and then I'm just going to name it, Tier 2. Okay, so I've got a new project here. It's called Tier 2, and then I'm going to go, highlight the new project. I'm going to edit it, and I'm just going to check on this button, and I'm going to choose the campaign I want to Tier 2, right? And you notice now it did the same thing. It attached it, right? Just like these others. And so now I can go in and set these campaigns up, this campaign for Tier 2 up individually. There's options here for 2-tier. Use anchor text from verified URL. I like to do that. The rest of these, I just want to make sure that the rest of these I'm not very interested in, but you might want to experiment with them, if you have time or if you have the desire. So I've go ahead and using the anchor text from the verified URL, and then I've got the property set up here. And for Tier 2, you can get away with a little bit more than you can with Tier 1, right? So you might want to try a few extra types of properties, that you're not using in the Tier 1, right? So I'm going to push OK, and now I'm going to change that to active. And now I've got a Tier 2, and as this continues to generate links, this is going to continue to backlink to them. Okay, so now that I've added this Tier 2, we want to make sure we remember to go back in and edit it and add its own email account for that. I just did it, but you would just click the delete button like we showed you before. Add a new email here, the password here, click Find Settings, and then test it when you're done. Again, you can get the Hotmail accounts, generally you can get 1,000 of them at Fiverr. Find someone with a good reputation, lots of good reviews. And the more you can get, with someone with really good reviews, the better. So there's no special person. And anytime you add a campaign at all, even just duplicating a campaign to, say you add a Facebook, like on our example, and you add a Twitter and a YouTube and a Google Plus, you'd want to add a new email each time you do that, right? Because once this campaign uses its email for an account, it's not going to go back and be able to set up a second property there, and you want your new properties to be able to get the same links, that the other one was able to get. So it's going to need a new email account to do that. Something else you're going to want to know about GSA Search Engine Ranker is when you go in here and change settings, oftentimes it saves and resets when you push the stop button, right? So you'll notice all the campaigns that are running are green, the ones that are not running are white. You push the stop button, and they'll slowly stop. They'll tell you here that they're stopped, and they'll go from green to white when they're all stopped. You got to wait till all of them stop, and then GSA remembers all the settings and everything that's happened up here. And now it has a point at this point where it actually is going to record in its memory everything. But if you don't let it stop, and say you do a hard shut off, it'll have lost all the data since you stopped last time. So that's a very bad idea. Never do that. Let it come all the way to the end where all the campaigns are no longer green, and now you've got to save, right? And so down here in the right, it'll frequently say, update ready. It'll be a big green message right here. You want to bring GSA to a stop all the way like this. It'll save everything, and then you can go ahead and do the update. It'll shut GSA off, reload, but it'll have remembered everything, and it'll come back up with the exact same settings and circumstances it has right now. Also, when you do something like adding a tier 2 or adjusting a campaign, oftentimes GSA won't automatically just institute those changes unless you stop it and start it first. So if you make a number of changes and you want to institute them right away, it's best to do a full stop, full start, and then it'll be starting up, instituting all of those changes that you made, and then they will have totally and completely been saved, right? So please remember to do a full stop before you do an update. There'll be a green light here down at the bottom that says update ready, and it's the same thing on GSA Capture Breaker. It updates from time to time. There'll be a green button down here that says update ready. So when you do an update on Capture Breaker, you want to make sure you fully stop GSA, so it's not trying to send things to Caption. It can't do it. And then update Capture Breaker, wait till it fully reloads, and then start them both up again, right? Now this video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to make another video to talk about some things you want to look out for here in GSA, and maybe answer some things that I think will be common questions. And then we'll be adding videos as we go here to answer questions that are rolling in, or specific issues or problems or auxiliary questions people have, or how to apply things. The other thing is that the settings that we've given you, for GSA are good initial settings. I was trained by a professional linking person how to use this a number of years ago, and before that I tried for a month, and I've even seen messages from people on the Facebook that people have tried for a year setting up GSA, and what a bear it is, the learning curve to get started. You could play with settings forever and never get them right. These settings here are exceptional settings for running efficiently, but everyone's got different circumstances, SEO objectives and goals, experiences, things they want to apply, things they want to experiment with. So, take these as that, a good initial setting. You can experiment all you want. If you've backed up your initial settings, you can always reload them and get right back to here without any problem at all. And take these as they are, as suggestions. There's limitless options in here, and things you can do and things you can play with. There isn't really anything the software won't do SEO wise, so you're pretty much just limited by your imagination. So have fun, play with it, but just keep your initial settings, because you might need to come back to this point and get back to a little bit more efficient level, and then start again with your testing. So with that being said, we'll come out with a next video. I look forward to seeing you there, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's happening here with the software and what things to look out for.